Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Talking Cloud Migration session. I'm Nitish Kamal, and I have Divya Ranganathan here with me. I am one of the founding members at Trundl and one of the co-owners as well. We are going to talk about all the scenarios involved in cloud migration. So you can be part of the conversation. Feel free to interrupt us if you have any questions. We would like to make sure that we are utilizing the time in such a way that uh, you are getting enough inputs to run your own migration. Thank you. Divya, you're on mute, Divya.
Hi everyone, this is Divya Ranganathan. I'm working in migrations team for Trundl. It's been a great, exciting 1 year with Trundl. Welcome you all to JiraCon. Please interrupt us with your questions whenever possible. So we are ready to answer questions. So let's get started.
Thank you. So this is a brief background about us and the Trundle migrations team. So we are involved in migrating, Jira or Confluence to cloud right from the beginning, right from the days where you had to kind of, work with Atlassian to kind of set up your cloud side, then do the beta testing. So we were there from the beginning. Uh, so I think somebody has issues with the audio. Uh, I think it's Jen's. So if there is still issue with hearing me, please let me know. Can one of you confirm whether you're able to hear me?
That's working fine.
Great, thank you so much. So we are involved in migrations on a regular basis, I would say on a daily basis. And at any given point of time, we have at least 3 to 4 migrations going on. And when we started the migration, the process was really, really complicated, especially for, merging cloud instances. We never had an option to kind of do it directly. So we had to literally take the long route of migrating it over to a server, then merging the servers and taking a backup of the server, migrating it over to cloud. And I still remember the days where we had to work with Atlassian on fixing bugs, which are unexpected on cloud sites. And, we have spent up to like 72 hours in a stretch to fix these issues. Right now, Atlassian has come a long way in terms of handling migrations. And there is a lot of improvement, and the roadmap looks really, really promising. So if you are using any third-party tools which is non-Atlassian, like Rally, Asana, Clubhouse, SharePoint, MediaWiki, WorkZone, or CM, and if you want to migrate it over to cloud, that is also something which we have done, and we would like to help you or guide you on how to do that. The agenda of the session is to make sure that if you're planning for a migration, you should at least know the steps, and you should be in a situation where a migration can be handled by your team. Divya, can you please open the next slide? All right, so here are the core questions before your cloud migration. Is Atlassian Cloud the right business model for you? It is not the right platform for all customers due to various reasons, like security, privacy, stuff like that. But over the last 2 to 3 years, Atlassian has made tremendous progress in terms of how cloud is working, and they are trying to fill in all these gaps. But despite of all these changes, still there are issues related to, I mean, if you want to restrict your instance to your company, make it fall under VPN, that kind of options are not available. So you will have to be careful before selecting whether Atlassian Cloud is the best way for you to move forward. Otherwise, you have option to host your content on data center, where a lot of customization can be done. How do we basically strategize the migration? So Every migration can be easy or complicated, depending on various steps involved in this. Major thing is planning. So if you are planning things in a precise manner, testing things, collaborating with Atlassian or partners like us, or if you have good insight in your team, collaborating within your team to kind of strategize the migration, it's going to be a cakewalk. Even if it's not a cakewalk, it's going to be not complicated. Whereas if you just decide to go ahead and perform a migration without proper planning and testing, you will run into issues for sure, because it's not easy. You cannot just do it by clicking on few options and just going at that's not possible. You will run into some other issues. We can avoid that by planning it properly. um, what does it take to migrate? Migration depends on various factors: size, your content, the add-ons which you're using, the version of your instance. If you're in a version which is older and not compatible with cloud, we will have to plan for upgrades. That kind of scenarios are something which you'll have to keep in mind before deciding the way where you can migrate. What you may lose and what you may gain. As I said, data center or server and cloud is slightly different. There are a lot of common factors, but there are differences as well. So you're going to lose some functionalities which you might have liked, and you will definitely gain a lot. So according to me, you will gain more from migrating over to cloud than losing, because uh, you can kind of save a lot of resources in terms of money as well as maintenance. Um, it's very easy to handle or administer a cloud instance than a data center or a server. So there is a lot of things which you can gain. Awareness of Atlassian's enablement of migration. So Atlassian wants to move their customers to cloud. They are pushing customers to move over to cloud. So there would be a lot of perks which you get if you're planning to move over from server to cloud. There would be also help in terms of technical uh, strategizing, or strategies or technical help. Whenever you're stuck, there is Atlassian to support along with the partner community. So this is something which Atlassian wants to happen, or they are trying to make this happen. So this is going to be really, really important. Um, Before starting a migration, make sure that uh, there would be Atlassian to support you in terms of moving over to cloud. All right, so this slide is basically about whether Atlassian cloud is the right business model for you. There are a lot of factors which you'll have to consider. If you want to have a self-hosted server where you want to have your simple things like having a custom DNS, or having your instance inside your VPN, not exposing the instance to the public. That kind of things is something which you're considering. And if you are healthcare or a pharmaceutical company, there might be some security regulations which you will have to follow. So Atlassian has, or has covered a lot of these regulations, but there might be some internal things which is specific to your company. So that is what you will have to understand before deciding to migrate. And while strategizing, that is going to be a major factor. Uh, then what are the things which you will get? No end of licenses, no server upgrades, no maintenance cost in terms of handling an AWS server or a Linux machine or a Windows server. That kind of things are out of the table. So you don't have to worry about those things. Everything is done by Atlassian. Cost of governing users groups in multiple locations. So you don't have to worry about having a different set of ADs if you're not planning to do that. However, there is a way for you to integrate with ADs, which is available with ITPs. Atlassian accounts is something which is specific to clouds, and you can make use of that. A lot of companies use it, where there is no additional pricing or charges related to hosting your users. That can be done free of cost on Atlassian accounts. So that is one benefit. Security, compliance, responsibilities, and risk. This is what I was talking about earlier. If your company has specific security needs, you will have to make sure that Atlassian Cloud, you know, has all these, compliance tests passed. And if it is not part of the scope, then you will have to reevaluate your options. Next slide, please. All right. So there, we basically divide migrations into three different phases. The first one is the discovery phase. Then you have the testing, which is UAT, and you have the production. So everything is interlinked. Discovery is very, very important. You need to analyze what exactly you're planning to migrate. What is the current state of your Jira or Confluence if you are still hosted on a server? If you're hosted on a third-party application, then we need to understand what are the things which we can migrate over to Jira Cloud or Confluence Cloud, and what are the things which we'll have to let go. So that is something which we'll have to understand. Downtime. Are you kind of having any questions related to downtime? If you're migrating over to cloud, technically there is no downtime, but we will have to at least turn your instance into read-only mode uh, during the maintenance window, but your users can still access the content which is available on Jira, Confluence, or the third-party tools. Then we'll have to make sure there is a read-only mode which is set up. Otherwise, the migration is going to be irrelevant, because you migrate over content and some content is left over on your server, which would make things complicated. This is where the planning comes into picture. You will have to do a sandbox testing or a sandbox migration, and then make the users test the instance, decide a date where you're going to perform the migration, and plan things accordingly. Second, then the third thing, cost. How much price are you going to go, shell out for migrating over to cloud? There are advantages of going with cloud. For example, on a data center instance, the starting user tier is 500. It is like 0 to 500 is the first user tier. And there are a lot of small and medium-sized companies who rarely has more than 100 users. Whereas in cloud, it starts from 0 to 10, then 10 to 15, 16 to 25, all the way to 100. So there are many user tiers, and this will enable you to, plan your budget accordingly and not shell out money for unused users. There is always an option for you to upgrade your user tier. All you have to do is work with a partner company like us or Atlassian, and compare the pricing rates. That is something which I recommend. If you are planning to migrate, you should get quotes for licenses from Atlassian and as well as partners. There would be differences in pricing because partners get some benefits, and some partners pass it out to customers. So that is something which you need to analyze. Then documentation of risks and features. You need to understand that the risks which are listed out on cloud, which might be related to potential access, where your content is stored in a location, and if your company has a policy where they want to store it locally, content like that. So we need to get clarification related to those things. Where exactly are the servers or the cloud servers hosted? So that kind of things is something which you'll have to understand. And we don't generally run into a lot of issues there, but this is a good to have feature since we are talking about a foolproof migration. The last and most important thing related to discovery: always raise a move ticket. Atlassian is here to support you. Atlassian has a dedicated migration team. All they do is migrations. They don't get into fixing your bugs or stuff like that, but they will walk you through the migration process right from the beginning in terms of estimating the pricing to all the way to providing support on a Sunday or a Saturday when you are really planning to migrate over to cloud. This can only happen if you raise a move ticket, and anybody can do that. All they have to do is set up a cloud instance, and if they are moving over from migrating over from server or data center, share their CN numbers and involve the people who are part of the migration. Give a description, and Atlassian will respond to you in a timely manner and set up meetings and screen sharing sessions to analyze the prospect of migrating over to cloud. And this is something which should be done at any cost before starting a migration. So that's thumb rule number one.
Yeah, one another advantage of raising a move ticket is there are flags which Atlassian can enable. So all the hidden features that can be enabled from the back end will also be applicable for our migration, which makes our migration easy. So
Okay.
yeah, and the next process of a successful migration is the user acceptance testing. We recommend the user acceptance testing to go on for 2 to 3 weeks, because once we do user acceptance testing and we come to know what are the errors present there, what are the features that are missed during a user acceptance testing migration. So all those features will be documented, and it will be very helpful for us when we do a production migration. So during the last time, we will not come to us and say like you did not migrate these features, we expected you to migrate these features. So that lack of communication will not be there if we do a complete user acceptance testing. So there are various other factors that are involved in user acceptance testing. The first one is the cloud migration trial. A cloud migration trial is nothing but when, even if you have a valid or invalid server license, you can apply for cloud migration trial, by which you will be able to get a 2-month extension of your cloud migration plans with the same amount of user tier which you have in the server. Suppose say you are having 100 user tier in your server, the same user tier you will be getting on the cloud as well. Without, you need not pay for those user trials. And if you want to extend your migration trials, you can also do it up to like 12 months. So that is one advantage of having a cloud migration trial enabled in your UAT site. The next comes the data cleanup. So a lot of customers have data in their instance, which there are some data in their instance which they don't use. Say like a workflow that was created 2 years back, and they are not, and it is not an active workflow. So those kind of data can be cleaned up. So when you migrate the data to your new cloud instance, all your data will be fresh, and you will not mess up your storage also with a lot of unwanted data. And then comes the user cleanup. Similar to data cleanup, there are several users who are in server. There is an option to create user accounts without a valid email address. So but in cloud, when you migrate those user accounts to a cloud instance, in cloud you should definitely have an email address. So you can do the user cleanup beforehand to migrate only the specific set of users which you want to migrate to your cloud instance. So user cleanup is one another important part that you need to cover during the user acceptance testing. Then once all the data cleanup is done, then we'll concentrate on the add-on compatibility. Add-on, most of the customers use add-on. Like most of the customers use add-on to upgrade their features with Jira instance. So and it's currently like not all the add-ons are compatible on the cloud instance. So we need to prepare an add-on compatibility document to see whether their server add-ons are compatible with the cloud add-ons. And there are few add-ons which in which the data of that add-on can also be migrated to the cloud instance. So they need to check with each and every vendor about that plugin, whether there is any migration path available for that for the add-on to be migrated to cloud. And also, like we have seen like several customers having add-ons, but those add-ons they will not be using it on any space, or they'll not be using it on any project. So they will just pay for that add-on, but they will not be using it. So just have an add-on compatibility document prepared and consult with your users whether they actually need that, and find how many spaces and how many projects are actually using that add-on. So in that way you can also reduce your cost. And then comes the sandbox instance. Sandbox instance, it is really helpful while it comes to a UAT testing. As a sandbox instance, you can multiple times you can delete your data and re-import your data again. So in that way the sandbox instance is really useful. So once we are done with the user acceptance testing with all these criteria, then you will draft a run book uh, for your future production migration. So once the run book is clear, if your run book is clear and sorted, so there will be a smooth migration, we can assure you on the during the production migration date. So now we can go to the production migration. So before we start with any production migration, previously in cloud instance, currently in cloud instance we don't have any traditional SSO ways, but the SSO can be enabled only through the Atlassian Access product. So it is always recommended to enable Atlassian Access product and verify your domains before you do the production migration. Only then your users will be able to easily navigate your production site without any hindrance when you go live. Then comes once the now we have migrated the users, then we will migrate the data. So once the data is migrated, we will not be 100% sure that all the data gets migrated. So if we see any discrepancies, we will be migrating in the post migration phase. So once all the data is migrated, we will be using some other methods like CSV to migrate the post migration data.
Great. Thank you so much for the details, Divya. Can you please go back to the previous slide? I would like to add some content. So, guys who are not familiar, or people who are not familiar with Atlassian Access, it is the user management tool which Atlassian provides, where you can link it with your AD on enable SSO, multi-factor authentication, automatic provisioning, user provisioning. All these things can be done using Atlassian Access. It is a paid product, but there is no compulsion for you to kind of go with the paid version. You can just use the free version, where you just verify the domains and manage your user accounts. And if you want enhanced features like SAML 2.0 integration, user provisioning, automatic user provisioning, authentication policies, dual authentication or multi-factor authentication, then you need to go for the paid version. One question which Daniel had is, if you want to move data related to inactive users, that is possible. What Divya mentioned about, email IDs is, on server, there is a scenario where you can create multiple users with the same email ID. For example, I can create n number of email IDs or user accounts using my email ID nitish@trundle.com. Whereas if you want to do the same on cloud, Atlassian doesn't let you do that, since emails is a unique identifier instead of username. If you can always migrate unused data over to cloud and store it on cloud. It's not a complex process. You just perform the migration and take it forward. Only thing is, if you are going with the standard version of cloud, there is space limitations. There is not unlimited space, but if you go with Jira Premium or Conference Premium or Jira Enterprise for bigger customers, you don't run into that kind of issues. I hope I answered your question. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to add it on the chat, or we can just talk about it, Daniel. Thank you.
Yes, next comes the migrations methodologies. Like for each and every migration is different. So suppose you say we are having in the slide, we are having the source on the first row and the target on the second row. So suppose you say like you are migrating a cloud instance from you're migrating a cloud to the server or DC instance. Our recommendation will always be to use the cloud site import. Then if you are migrating from a server DC to a cloud instance, the cloud instance is a new instance, so you can always use site import or JCMA, because whenever you import any data from server DC to a cloud instance via site import, all the data on the cloud instance will be overwritten. So if it is a new cloud instance, you can directly go with the site import. And if you are a person uh, who wish not to migrate dashboards or filters, or you don't have any preference to migrate them, so you can directly go with JCMA. The one disadvantage with going with JCMA is it will not migrate your dashboards and filters. So if you are a person who are not concerned about them, then you can directly go with JCMA for this case as well. So now the next case is migrating a server DC to a existing cloud instance. So as I told you earlier, when you migrate data from any instance to a cloud instance that already has data through site import, the data will be overwritten. So it is always recommended to use the JCMA tool. JCMA is nothing but an add-on that is developed by Atlassian. It is a free add-on that is developed by Atlassian. Using this add-on, you can migrate the selected projects from your server DC to the cloud instance, which is having existing data, and those data will not be overwritten, and the data which you are migrating will just be added to the cloud instance. Next comes the cloud to cloud migration. Cloud to cloud migration can be done in two steps. First, you need to migrate the cloud instance to a server or DC instance, and then from the server to DC instance, you then need to migrate to the cloud instance. This is one complicated process we have currently, but Atlassian has developed a tool to overcome this effort. So currently it is not in place, but currently we need to follow the traditional method. In the later slides, we will explain you what are the tools that are available to do cloud to cloud migration directly. So in order to do this process, first we need to migrate the cloud instance to a server DC instance through a site import, and then from server instance to cloud instance through either site import or JCMA, based on whether the cloud instance is having existing data or it is a new cloud instance. Yeah, Nitish, you can take.
Thank you, Divya. I think Daniel has one more question. So you were asking about the difference between a sandbox instance and cloud migration trial. So Atlassian doesn't provide sandbox instance for every customer. They only provide it to enterprise customers, and the billing is high. What Divya was mentioning about is basically you use a cloud trial to do your UAT migration, and then do the testing and sign off. So that is something which you can create and reach out to Atlassian support. They will extend it. All you have to do is mention that you're performing a migration trial, and they will support you. And for the production trial, when you set up a cloud instance for migration, you get 3 months of 2 months of trial. And if your support period is not going to end before the time you are actually performing the migration, for example, this is the month of October, and you have licenses for your server support available till next June or 2022 June. If you're performing the migration right now, Atlassian will give you some loyalty discounts on the cloud side and make sure that it is free for some period of time, so you get benefits like that. But in terms of Sandbox versus cloud trial, Sandbox is only available for an enterprise customer. It's free of cost. A Jira Premium or a Jira Standard user will not be eligible to get a Sandbox instance. They can get free trials. You can kind of have as many trials as you want, but it should be linked with different URLs, because Atlassian wants you to test out the content, and they don't push you to go with procuring the licenses right away before testing. Let me kind of continue where Divya had left. So this is more specific to moving over content from legacy tools to Jira or Confluence. How do you do that? So there are multiple approaches which you can use. You can use the CSV approach. We have done it for a lot of migrations from Clubhouse to Asana. So you use CSV content which you want on Jira. You take a CSV export because that is available on most of this application, and then format it properly according to Jira's terminology, and then do a CSV import that can move over a lot of content. It's a very complex thing, and if you make a small mistake while performing the CSV import, you would end up in a situation where a lot of issues get imported and you need to kind of manually do the cleanup. So this has to be done in a very precise manner with a lot of testing, and people without experience should always do it on a non-production environment. The second option, custom scripting. You can use scripting and move over content to Jira using APIs. That is an option. And you also have the JSON API option to perform legacy migration from server to cloud. So the existing set of options which are available for Jira to Jira, like if you want to do a server to cloud using JCMA, there are a lot of factors which you'll have to consider, like the shared content. You only migrate over projects and users, along with compatible add-on data. By compatible, I mean there are some marketplace vendors who provide cloud migration assistance. We will only be able to move our content of those add-ons, and any other add-on which doesn't support that, you won't be able to move the content directly. Some things might break. This is where the testing migration is really important, where you can kind of identify the loopholes and kind of come up with a solution as a post-migration approach. So a lot of workflow related features using external add-ons gets lost, and you kind of perform a post-migration check to kind of get that thing done. So that is something which you'll have to keep in mind. Can you please move to the next slide?
So yeah, this is like how do we strategize. In the previous slides we saw like, what are the available options to do each and every migration. But in each and every migration, we split the each and every migration into 4 features. First is the users, data, attachment, and the add-ons. For strategizing for users, there we need to check whether you're going to migrate entire set of user directory or the partial set of user directory. Entire set means you will migrate all your active users, inactive users, and everyone that is present on your user directory. Partial users, in case if you want to migrate just your active users, or say you just want to migrate a group of people to your cloud instance, that is also a possibility. So like if you want to migrate the entire set of users, you can go with JCMA to migrate all your entire set of users on your user directory. Then if you want to migrate just the partial user directory, then you can go for the pre-upload of users. Pre-upload of users will be done through a CSV methodology before we migrate data to the cloud instance. Then comes the data migration. Data migration also depends on various factors, whether the target cloud instance is having existing data or it is a fresh cloud instance. And there are customers saying like, I just want to migrate only few contents from my server instance to the cloud instance. So that is also possible through JCMA. If you're targeting to migrate just a part of the content, you can either use CSV file import or you can go with the JCMA. So if you are going to migrate the entire set of data, you need to in that time you need to see whether you're going to migrate to a new cloud instance or to an existing cloud instance. So if it is an existing cloud instance, you need to go with JCMA, and if it is a new cloud instance, you can directly go with site import. So next comes the attachment migration. We have migrated users data, and then the important part is the attachment. So attachment comes in a data folder in your it will be in your bar folder. So that data folder, if the data folder is greater than 5 GB, you can go with cloud file uploader. There is a new feature that Atlassian is providing our customers, is the cloud file uploader, with which you can directly import a file data folder greater than 5 GB. So if the data folder is less than 5 GB, we will be able to migrate traditionally. Traditionally, in the sense, we'll be splitting your 5 GB file into a chunks of 2 GB or 1 GB, and then migrating in chunks. So next comes the add-ons, which is the most important part in all the migration. Add-ons, like there are some add-ons that are compatible in both server and cloud instance. So those add-ons, you need to check with the vendor whether they are having a cloud migration path uh, to migrate to cloud. So if they are having a cloud migration path, then it is an easy job for us to migrate. If they are not having a cloud migration path, then we need to either compromise on that add-on. So each and every phase, it is important to have to be a successful to complete a successful migration. So Nitish, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, so the add-on part is important, and the attachment part, by traditional import, what she meant is the site import, where you get the option to kind of upload media or attachments. So there is a specific format which you need to follow to kind of import content from server to cloud. You need to have those directories ready and zip it in a proper way, and do the migration and multiple iterations. That's it, Divya. Thank you.
So this is another important part which you need to know about JCMA and the cloud import migration methodologies, which we discussed earlier. So if you are going to use JCMA, it has got a lot of disadvantages, and these disadvantages can also be overcome by either using a CSV method after we migrate data through JCMA. So if you use JCMA, your cross-product boards, notification schemes, project avatars, all these items specified here will not be migrated over, and we need to migrate all these all these features manually using CSV import, or recreate them on the cloud instance. And if you're going to use cloud site import, it is straightforward method, but one disadvantage is like if you are using an external directory, the users will not be migrated. So in that case, what we can do, those external directory users can be migrated through JCMA. So in that case, we can migrate those external directory users through JCMA and do just the data migration through cloud site import.
Great. One thing which I wanted to add, can you please go back to the previous slide? Confluence links and content like that, when you kind of migrate over to the cloud instance, after the migration, all you have to do is use application links, connect it again, and a lot of content which was there will come back, but it's a post migration step. And if you are a Jira service desk customer, or if your company uses Jira service desk, it is managed in a different way on cloud. It is known as Jira Service Management, whereas on the previous versions of server, it was known as Jira Service Desk. So customers who are added on these service desk projects, we need to migrate it in a different manner to cloud, because it's handled in a completely diverse manner on cloud. It's not similar to how it's being handled on a server or a data center. So this is something which you'll have to factor in, and then when the migration planning happens, you need to collaborate with Atlassian and make sure that this is done in a proper manner. Please open the next slide. So, as I said, there is a lot of improvement on Atlassian Cloud. Atlassian is pushing users to migrate over to cloud. So, right now, the migration assistant tools which they provide is just for Jira and Confluence, JCMA and CCMA. They are going to add Jira Service Management migrations. Then there is also a Bitbucket Cloud Migration Assistant, which should be launched soon. And we also have Jira Cloud to Cloud Migration tool, which they're doing the beta testing for that, and that would be done sometime in the next or this quarter itself. Then we have the advanced roadmaps migration option. This is specific to portfolios, the older version of advanced roadmap. And for people who are not aware of features which is available with Jira Premium, advanced roadmaps is something which you get free of cost on Premium and Enterprise. You don't have to procure the licenses. And then if you are a Jira Service Management Premium or Enterprise customer, you get features like Ops Genie, and you also get asset management solution involving Insight Asset Management. So it's Insight Asset Management and Insight Discovery, which comes in free of cost. There was a question which Shiv had related to the data of prod to Sandbox. So if you are planning to have an exact replica of Sandbox, Atlassian doesn't just create it and give it to you. You need to do the you need to take the backup and then re-import it on the Sandbox instance. What they just give you, provide you is free licenses and a way where you can host or do the testing without paying additional dollars for that. All right, Divya, please open the next slide. Guys, any questions so far? If you want to kind of use the rest of the time, I know we have 3 more minutes. So if you want to make use of that and ask some questions related to your migration plans, or get some insight about what you're planning to do, that would be appreciated. If you don't have any questions right now, and if you come through some scenario in the later half of the day, you can visit it in one of the Trundl booths. We also have shared our email IDs, so feel free to pick our brains and send your questions. We will be glad to answer those. We have some exciting sessions which is coming up after this one. There is something from Tamanna, then Hua, Ritika. So these are all important things. So if you would like to go through that, I highly recommend that. You can kind of get more knowledge about things which they're going to discuss, especially agile related content and ITSM content, and the most important, Atlassian licensing. I'm saying this is the most important because it's directly related to the migration topic which we are talking. So I highly recommend you guys to participate in the Atlassian licensing Q&A because you get to know a lot of additional things. One thing which I wanted to add is Atlassian provides loyalty discounts. For people who are planning to migrate from server to cloud, and I don't know the exact number of percentage because that's done on the licensing front. So feel free to use that. So can you give more details about external directory user migration? So Divya, can you please take that one? So there is a question from Daniel related to external directory user migration.
Sure, yeah. So if you want to migrate an external directory user to a cloud instance, that will not be possible by JCMA. So that will not be possible by a site import. So you need to either use the JCMA option, or you can go with the CSV pre-upload. So you can say like if the target cloud instance either has data or doesn't have data, you can use both the options, either to go with JCMA or to have CSV pre-uploaded users. The one main thing is, if you want to, you need to consider whether you are going to migrate the entire set of Active Directory users, or you're going to migrate just a part of the Active Directory users. So suppose say if you're going to just migrate a part, then you can go only with the CSV pre-upload method. If you want to migrate entire set of users, then you can go with the JCM. So if that answer your question.
All right, guys, we are running out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure discussing cloud migrations with you. I hope all of you who are planning to have your content migrated over to cloud, you guys are going to do it in a very seamless manner, planned manner. Please make sure to follow the checklist, and send us emails if you need any help or queries. We are always there to help. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.